In the year 3099, Earth was no longer alone among the stars. After centuries of silence and speculation, humanity had finally stepped into the galactic stage by joining the vast and ancient Galactic Alliance, a union of thousands of alien civilizations spread across the spiral arms of the galaxy. With this great leap forward came many things: new technologies, faster travel, cultural exchanges, and trade agreements that changed the face of Earth forever. But not everything that arrived with the Alliance was safe. Alongside the peace and progress came species so strange and dangerous that even speaking their names brought whispers of caution. One such species was the Venari. Their homeworld lay in the far reaches of the Obsidian Sector, a part of space where few dared to travel. The Venari were elegant in form, almost beautiful in a haunting way. They were tall, humanoid in shape, with silver-white hair that floated like smoke and skin that shimmered with an unnatural glow. Their eyes held no pupils, only shifting colors, that hinted at their alien minds. But the true danger of the Venari lay in their bite. With a single puncture, their venom could kill almost instantly. No known species, no armor, no medicine had ever stopped it. Entire planets told horror stories of what a single Venari could do in battle. Their venom could melt through metal, destroy the nervous system of any living creature, and leave nothing behind but ash. Even in the mighty Galactic Alliance, where warships could blot out suns and machines could think like gods, the Venari were feared. Yet, despite all that, Earth did something unexpected. They invited the Venari. As part of the diplomatic exchange, program between the newer and older members of the Alliance, each major species sent ambassadors, scientists, or cultural representatives to other worlds. Earth accepted a Venari representative and prepared one of its most secure research and diplomatic bases to receive her. The station was named Aegis, a floating fortress that hovered above the Pacific Ocean, hidden from most of the world and guarded by layers of advanced technology. The Venari sent one of their own, a female named Zalara. She arrived in a ship that looked like it had been carved from moonlight, and when she stepped out, the humans who watched her felt both awe and fear. Zalara was different, even among her kind. Her presence seemed to quiet the room. She moved with perfect grace, spoke rarely, and observed everything. She wore no armor, carried no weapon, yet even the most hardened soldiers on the base avoided eye contact with her. No one wanted to be close. Even her smile, when it happened, made people uneasy, because no one knew if it was kindness or hunger behind her expression. For weeks, Zalara lived inside the station, kept under careful observation by Earth's top xenobiologists and diplomats. Scientists monitored her from behind reinforced glass and robotic arms. Her quarters were made of venom-resistant alloy. Her food was delivered by drones. Everyone treated her like a beautiful bomb that could explode at any moment. And she noticed. She watched the humans watch her. She heard their whispers. She knew their fear. And somewhere deep inside, she began to grow tired of it. Then, everything changed because of one man. His name was Jason Cole. He wasn't a captain, or a doctor, or a genius. He was a maintenance technician. A man who worked behind the scenes, fixing lights, repairing wires, and checking cooling systems. He had no clearance to speak with ambassadors, and no training in alien diplomacy. But he had a calm face, quiet eyes, and a way of being that didn't change, no matter how strange the world around him became. The first time he saw Zalara was while fixing a malfunctioning panel outside her chamber. He didn't know she was, watching until he turned around and saw her standing behind the glass, staring at him. Their eyes met for just a second, and then something unexpected happened. Zalara smiled. Not the cold, sharp smile she gave the scientists. This one was softer, almost curious. Jason blinked, gave a small nod, and went back to work like nothing strange had happened. That moment stayed with Zalara. The next day, she stood closer to the glass. The day after that, she asked a question. "What are you fixing?" Jason, slightly surprised, answered simply, "Broken circuits." Most people would have panicked or called security. But Jason just kept working, speaking to her, like she was anyone else. Over the following days, Zalara continued to appear whenever Jason came near. She asked more questions, some strange, some surprisingly human. "Why do humans drink coffee?" she asked once. "Why do you smile when no one's around?" Jason didn't always have good answers, but he answered honestly. And every time she listened carefully, as if the smallest human detail mattered to her. Slowly, something began to grow between them, a quiet, strange understanding. Zalara began to see Jason not as a specimen or a threat, but as something entirely new. He wasn't afraid of her. He didn't look at her like a weapon. He looked at her like a person. But the others on the station were watching too. The lead scientists warned Jason to keep his distance. They showed him recordings, videos of what Zalara's venom had done to synthetic drones, to test animals, even to samples of steel alloy. The damage was always instant. They explained in cold, careful words that Zalara's bite was not a joke. It was death. One mistake, one slip, and Jason would vanish like everything else her venom had touched. But Jason didn't seem to care. "If she hasn't hurt me yet," he told them, "maybe she won't." They thought he was foolish. Maybe he was. But that didn't stop him from returning to that hallway day after day to speak with her. Zalara noticed the warnings too. She saw how the humans around Jason treated him differently now, with concern, even fear. She understood the risks, but still, she watched him work, spoke to him, and stood as close to the glass as she was allowed. Something was changing in her, something she had never felt before, and deep in her mind, a question formed, one that would soon shake the stars. Could there be someone she couldn't kill? The day the alarm blared across Station Aegis, the quiet rhythm of observation shattered like glass underfoot. Red lights washed the halls in a warning glow, and voices rose in sharp, panicked bursts over comms. A diplomatic vessel, unauthorized, and heavily shielded, had breached Earth's orbital perimeter. Within seconds, defensive systems engaged, but orders came quickly from higher up. Hold fire. This ship, it seemed, carried Venari. Not just any Venari, but a faction from within their own empire. Warborn, soldiers who served no diplomacy, only conquest. The Galactic Alliance had long feared the day when internal politics from the more dangerous species would spill into neutral space. That day had come. Without clearance, the vessel landed on a secondary pad at the far end of the station. Within moments, 5 Venari stepped onto Earth soil, each one wearing battle skins so dark it swallowed light. They made no attempt to hide their weapons. Their leader, a male named Sarek, stood taller than the others. Where Zalara had elegance, Sarek carried menace. His face bore ritual scars. His voice sounded like metal grinding on stone. He came with a message, but not for Earth. He came for Zalara. When the Council of Human Scientists, officers, and diplomats gathered to meet him, he ignored them all. His eyes, glowing with predatory gold, scanned the room until they landed on the tall, silent form standing behind a glass panel. Zalara. The moment their gazes met, the air thickened. The silence that followed carried weight. Sarek spoke in their own tongue first, hissing, sharp, ancient. Then, in Galactic Standard, he delivered the truth. Zalara, first daughter of House Vren, had violated their core law. She had begun a personal bond with a foreign species, a connection beyond observation, a connection beyond safety. He accused her of emotional corruption, a shameful and dangerous flaw for a Venari, especially one of noble blood. To speak with another species casually, to laugh, to learn their ways. Such softness was betrayal. Worse still, Sarek claimed she had allowed her venom to soften. A crime punishable by ritual death. No one in the room understood what that meant. Not until Sarek explained it further. Zalara's body was adapting. Her venom was changing. And the reason, according to their science and belief, was simple. Prolonged exposure to a human had begun to mutate her biochemistry. The very presence of Jason Cole had done what no lab, no toxin neutralizer, no artificial environment had ever achieved. Her bite, lethal to every life form in the Alliance, no longer worked on him. Gasps spread among the humans present. Shock rippled through the group. Some thought Sarek must be bluffing. Others felt the chill of possibility crawling down their spines. Jason was summoned, though against protocol. He stood before the war-born Venari with his usual quiet presence, saying nothing, his face calm but alert. Sarek watched him like a hawk studies a mouse. Then, to prove his point, the Venari warrior did something that nearly caused security to fire. He sliced his own palm and let the dark purple blood drip into a small vial. From his armor, he removed a needle-tipped injector and offered it, not to Zalara, but to Jason. "Let her bite him," Sarek said coldly, "or inject this into his veins. If he lives, she has failed her species. If he dies, all returns to balance." Horror crossed the faces of the human officials. This was madness. A live venom test on a civilian? Impossible. Inhumane. But Zalara's eyes didn't leave Jason's, and what passed between them in that moment was silent, deep, and beyond science. She stepped forward, slowly, her hands raised, not as a threat, but in surrender to the weight of the moment. Sarek growled something in their tongue, but she ignored him. She turned to Jason. Then, in a voice more human than alien, she said, "This is not your fight, but I must know the truth." The room was frozen. Every breath held. Jason didn't flinch. He nodded once. Then, calmly, he rolled up his sleeve. Gasps erupted. A medic cried out in protest, but was silenced. Before anyone could stop it, Zalara leaned in. Her lips brushed his wrist. Her teeth sank into his skin. Not deep, just enough to pierce. The venom entered. Seconds passed like eternities. His body should have convulsed. His skin should have blistered. His veins should have turned black with toxin, but nothing happened. Jason stood steady, his eyes locked on hers. Zalara's hand trembled. Her breath hitched. Sarek stepped back, stunned. The air itself seemed to stop moving. Then Jason smiled. Not a mocking smile, but a simple knowing. One. "Guess I'm built different," he said, in a quiet voice that echoed across the chamber. The silence broke. Some of the humans whispered in disbelief. Sarek snarled, his pride cracked and exposed. He turned to Zalara, fury boiling in his voice. "You have brought shame. You are no longer one of us." She didn't reply. She simply stepped away from the humans, placing herself between Jason and Sarek, as if to shield the one being in the galaxy who could survive her. This act, this final defiance, lit a fuse. Sarek raised a weapon, but was met with 20 more, human guards, soldiers, androids. A single move would mean war. Zalara knew the Venari would not accept this quietly. Her mutation was not just biological, it was political. Proof that their perfect weapon had limits, proof that maybe their power had blind spots. Jason was escorted away for safety, while Zalara was placed into diplomatic quarantine. Sarek and his warriors returned to their ship, promising that the Venari Council would answer this with purification. The warning was clear: Earth would soon face consequences. But deep within the station, beneath the panic and reports and protocol, Zalara sat in silence, staring at her hands. She had tasted human blood and found not weakness, but harmony. Something had begun, something irreversible. The galaxy had just learned that her bite was not absolute, and in a war-driven universe, nothing was more dangerous than change. The days following Sarek's threat unfolded with quiet intensity. Across Earth's orbital defenses, war protocols were tightened. Orbital guns rotated day and night, battle cruisers adjusted their patterns, and the diplomatic corps braced for a retaliation that never came, at least not in the way anyone expected. While the governments of Earth scrambled behind closed doors, far from their corridors of fear and strategy, Zalara remained in a containment chamber, carved from layered shielding and force barriers, untouched by gravity, sound, or warmth. Inside, she sat unmoving, more like a statue than a sentient being. Her skin, once patterned with flowing silver bioluminescence, had dimmed. Her breathing slowed to a crawl. Scientists came and went, observing her from behind thick walls, recording changes, analyzing data. None spoke directly. None dared risk another contact. Not after what had happened with Jason. The Council feared the public discovery of what she had become: a Venari who could not kill a human, a weapon broken by contact. They labeled it a mutation, a flaw. But none of them understood the truth as Jason did. It wasn't a malfunction of venom. It was an evolution of choice. Somewhere, in the heart of the station, he sat before a tribunal, not as a criminal, but as a subject. His blood samples were taken, tested, and examined under microscopes more advanced than most minds could comprehend. The verdict: his immune system hadn't neutralized the venom. It had accepted it, harmonized with it. The Venari compound had entered his bloodstream like a key sliding into a lock, not with violence but with eerie compatibility. He hadn't survived because the venom failed. He survived because something within him welcomed it. The scientists had no explanation. Theories formed, arguments erupted. One camp claimed the exposure to Zalara over time created resistance. Another whispered about ancient compatibility between species, long hidden. And in a more hushed, unsettling tone, some dared to believe that it wasn't human biology that changed. It was Zalara's. What if her instincts bent, not from weakness, but from will? Within her chamber, Zalara dreamt in fragments. Memories drifted like smoke, of her homeworld's twin moons rising over burning deserts, of siblings born in violent rituals, of her first kill at age 4, her initiation at 6, and her vow to remain loyal to the Venari Code. All those memories faded like dying embers when the image of Jason returned to her thoughts. His voice, his calm stare, the strange steadiness of his spirit. Not soft, not fragile, simply stable, like gravity itself. He was not like other species. He didn't cower when threatened. He didn't flinch under pressure. Even in silence, he stood tall, not in defiance, but in quiet understanding. Her instincts had not been dulled by time or treachery. They had evolved. Something primal inside her had changed when she met him. She was no longer a creature defined by venom and fear. She had become something else. Beyond her chamber, things shifted. Protests stirred on the political spectrum. Some argued for her release. Others demanded her execution. The fear of a Venari weapon gone rogue was too great for the Alliance to ignore. Meanwhile, from beyond Earth's reach, a ripple of panic moved across the stars. News of the failed venom test spread like wildfire, secretly, quietly, but effectively. Species who once feared the Venari began to ask questions. Could their power be broken? Could one species resist them? Could the myths of invincible warriors crumble under the simplest anomaly? Empathy? Alliances shifted behind the scenes. Hidden. Worlds lit up their own defenses. Old enemies of the Venari, long silenced, began to whisper about rebellion. One single act, one human's survival, had shaken an empire's foundation. But not all were pleased. Late into the third night, a shadow crept into the station. A stealth shuttle, cloaked in a gravity-disrupting field, bypassed security. It was Sarek. Not with soldiers, not with permission, but with vengeance. He came not as a warrior of honor, but as an assassin in disgrace. His pride had cracked, in front of enemies. His legacy had been tarnished. Now, all he had left was fury. He entered the quarantine level with silent steps and poison-coated blades. The cameras flickered as if time itself refused to record what came next. But one thing stood in his way: Jason. Somehow, through instinct or fate or something stranger, Jason had known the moment would come. He had asked to visit Zalara, not with words, but with presence. He had stood outside her chamber when the lights dimmed. The moment the door opened, he turned and saw Sarek step from the dark. There was no time for warnings, no chance for negotiation, only the sharp gleam of a Venari dagger slicing toward his throat. Yet again, Jason did not flinch. He stepped forward, not backward, and something happened. Zalara moved. She broke through the containment field, not with strength, but with purpose. The chamber cracked with energy as her body, reacting to Jason's danger, pulsed with light. Her claws caught Sarek's blade mid-air, and her tail, faster than a bullet, coiled around the attacker's neck. The two Venari clashed with an ancient rage, hissing and snarling in their native tongue. Sarek called her a traitor. She called him blind. The room became a blur of limbs and shrieks and venomous strikes. Jason could only watch, stunned, as Zalara fought like a storm given form. But it was not violence that ended it. It was a choice. When Sarek lunged for the kill, she didn't counter with death. She struck his nerve center and dropped him unconscious. Then, turning to Jason, she whispered one word: enough. Not in defiance, not in fear, but in finality. She did not want blood. She wanted peace. Security forces arrived moments later. Sarek was taken. Jason stood unharmed. And Zalara, glowing with strange, peaceful light, looked up at the council that had watched the whole event unfold through shattered monitors and failing sensors. She asked for sanctuary, not as a soldier, not as a prisoner, but as something new, something the galaxy had never seen before. Word of Zalara's defiance spread faster than any fleet ever could. Across the star networks and deep space relays, her image flickered like a signal of revolution, an apex predator who had chosen peace over dominance, restraint over blood. The Venari High Order, stunned into silence, withdrew into their inner sanctums, unable to comprehend the betrayal. To them, she was no longer one of their own. She was corrupted, poisoned by mercy, made impure by connection to a human. But to others, hidden planets under Venari rule, smaller species long suppressed by venom and terror, she became something else entirely, a symbol, not of fear, but of hope. Inside Earth's prime station, where the stars turned slowly beyond crystal windows, a tribunal assembled again, this time not to interrogate or contain, but to understand. The room, circular and vast, bore the flags of 50 worlds. Delegates sat behind curved consoles, each watching the silent entrance where Zalara would appear. No shackles held her. No guards surrounded her. She stepped forward under her own will, her armor stripped of rank, her posture straight. Beside her, not as an escort but as an equal, walked Jason. Their presence, side by side, felt like the breaking of a curse. Every eye in the room locked on the impossible pairing, a human and a Venari, unafraid of one another. When she spoke, it wasn't with growls or threats, but in calm, clear words translated through the neural comm implants. Each delegate wore. She told them her story, not just of battles or kills, but of indoctrination, of traditions built on extinction, of pride crafted from blood. She told them how the venom in her fangs had been a symbol of honor, a tool of dominance. But then came Earth and Jason, and the moment where she bit and nothing happened except realization. In him, she saw not a weakness, but a mirror. He had not fought her with violence, but with presence. He had not tried to tame her or run from her. He simply existed, fearless, stable, like gravity made flesh. Her venom did not fail. It transformed. Or perhaps, she transformed. Either way, the truth could no longer be hidden. The bite that ended lives across dozens of worlds did not work on him. Not because his species was immune, but because some part of her soul had changed. Something ancient had stirred, deeper than instinct. Not love, not yet, but understanding. The council listened, some in awe, others in discomfort. Old alliances trembled. Warriors once proud of their battles against the Venari now questioned their victories. Could others among the Venari change? Could an empire built on fear be unmade, not by war, but by empathy? As debates erupted behind closed doors, the media latched onto the pair. Jason, the man who survived the deadliest bite in the galaxy. Zalara, the alien who could no longer kill. Interviews, speculations, broadcasts, each day brought a new headline, a new theory. Some accused them of staging the event for politics. Others believed they were the first sign of a new evolution. Across border worlds, people whispered that perhaps nature itself had grown tired of violence. But beyond the noise and the lights, deeper changes brewed. Hidden Venari, outcasts, exiles, dreamers, began to reach out from across the stars. Some begged for asylum, others asked for guidance. One even admitted that his venom had failed. Recently, too. A pattern had begun. The death bite was no longer absolute. Meanwhile, inside a research facility orbiting Neptune's upper stratosphere, a team of scientists conducted secret tests. Jason's blood, fused with traces of the altered Venari venom, held strange properties. It reacted to radiation in unpredictable ways. It bonded with foreign cells, then healed them. It resisted certain toxins, adapted rapidly to pathogens. The findings were classified under Level Red. Military minds wanted to replicate the process, to breed a generation of soldiers immune to alien poisons. But Jason refused. His DNA, his life, was not a weapon. Not again. He had seen what weapons became. Instead, he proposed a different idea, something radical. If Venari instincts could evolve through connection, why not foster those connections? Why not bring Venari youths, those not yet hardened by rituals, to Earth? Let them learn before their venom ruled them. Teach them something other than fear. The council, divided at first, slowly began to listen. Months passed. An exchange program was launched, quiet at first, protected by layers of security. Venari younglings arrived under strict surveillance, their fangs capped, their minds open. Human instructors taught them art, science, music. In return, the Venari taught their ancient histories, their forgotten songs, and something else: how to see beyond tradition. Zalara led the program, not as a teacher, not as a commander, but as a bridge. And Jason, ever nearby, helped translate the emotions between the two species. Their bond grew, not romantic, not physical, but profound. She trusted him in ways no Venari had trusted another being, and he, once just a mechanic stationed at the edge of space, became the quiet architect of a future no one had imagined. Together, they built not peace treaties, but understanding. Not alliances, but empathy. Not, all agreed. Across the stars, Extremist Venari tribes declared her a ghost, a betrayer. Assassins tried to breach Earth space, but none succeeded. Some human factions, too, protested. "She bit him once, she'll bite again," they shouted. But fear could no longer shape the path ahead. The galaxy had witnessed something stronger. Sarek, now imprisoned in a cryocell far beyond Pluto, refused to speak. His eyes, once full of fury, stared ahead in emptiness. His legacy crumbled. And on a quiet evening, as Earth's blue curve spun slowly beneath the station, Zalara stood on the observation deck beside Jason. No words passed between them. None were needed. The stars, cold and endless, watched in silence as two beings, once enemies, now symbols, looked forward. Her fangs, still deadly, had not vanished. But they had found a new purpose. Not for killing, but for choice. And perhaps that was the true evolution all along.